Memoirs of a Geisha up first.
Okay, Rob Chicago. Maybe you remember what I thought of Chicago, which was not great. Marshall's adaptation of a novel by Arthur Golden, which at one point was slated to be directed by Steven Spielberg, who then didn't direct it, but he ends up with a producer credit on it now. The story of a young girl who is taken from her family in a fishing village, winds up being trained as a geisha, and it follows her life story through all the trials and tribulations of being taken away through her, from her family, being trained as a geisha, what then happens during the war, blah, 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 blah. So it's episodic, epic. Obviously, Japanese story. However, there's been a lot of fuss about it. Partly, it's all shot in Hollywood and America. There must be some external stuff that's shot elsewhere, but almost all of it is done in interiors in Hollywood. And of course, the central people in the cast are, well, Zhang Ziyi, who's now officially being referred to as Ziyi Zhang, because you know there's a whole thing that you put the
Changed it round, yeah.
Yeah, fine, okay. So since 2046, I think she now prefers to be called Ziyi Zhang. Well, she's Chinese and is known best from House of Flying Daggers, and she's up for a Golden Globe. Gong Li, who is also Chinese, who's known best from Raise the Red Lantern, and Michelle Yeoh, who I think is in Tomorrow Never Dies, and is actually a very, very well-known Hong Kong actress because she's originally Malaysian. And there was some fuss about, well, only Hollywood could have done this, taken this story and messed it around by, casting these. Well, who cares? It's like, it's a Hollywood movie. If what you're looking for is something terribly purist, then actually go and watch a Japanese movie, or watch a Malaysian movie, or watch a Hong Kong movie. Let's be absolutely clear about this. It's a Hollywood movie from a source which is written by a bloke who lives in Boston. So as far as the authenticity of the Memoirs of a Geisha bit is concerned, let's just put that to one side and let's just take it for what it is. It's a better film than Chicago, which I didn't rate, but then went on to, I think, didn't Chicago win Best Film? I mean, despite the fact Chicago had Richard Gere dancing in it, and I'm a big Richard Gere fan, as I think we've covered in some detail. It is a better film than that. From a production point of view, it's very well designed. Certainly, when you're looking at it, you don't think this is shot in America. What you think is this is shot in Hollywood. Everything looks like a Hollywood melodrama movie. Very bright colours, very bold colour schemes, extraordinary costume design, great makeup and hair, swishy camera moves. Every single scene. You know what you were saying about the Harry Potter movie, about they're constantly standing in what look like sort of posed tableaus. Well, there's an awful lot of that in Memoirs of a Geisha, and actually it serves the story perfectly well. It's fairly true to the novel, which I haven't read, but apparently what you see at the end of the film, which looks for all the world like a Hollywood ending, and I went, oh, well, that clearly that's not in the novel. Apparently it is in the novel. Apparently the novel is very much following exactly the same arc as the film. So all the problems that are inherent in it, in terms of the fact that it's melodramatic, that it's kind of cod, that it's kind of swishy, that it's kind of overblown, are all inherent in the source matter. So what you're then left with is, okay, it's a great big Hollywood costume drama, melodramatic triumph of love with cultural input story. And as those go, it's not bad. The performances, when you consider that what you've actually got is a bunch of very, very fine actresses all talking in, what is not their mother tongue, some of them doing it better than others, but it's always a strange thing when you're casting foreign actors to talk in English. I have no problem with subtitles, but I understand that the general rule is that, mainstream audiences don't like subtitles. Actually, of course, anyway, because it's a multiracial cast, their mother tongues would all be varying because there are many different languages in which they could be speaking. So they're all speaking in English, but you have to just get over that. In the same way that you get over, in Schindler's List with Rafe, speaking in a German accent like this because he is Rafe Fiennes, but he just has a little bit of, it's fine. After a while, you just think, it's okay. I'm just going to put up with the conceit of that's what it sounds like, and I'm not bothered about it. It's not deep. It's not culturally important. It's not anything other than a good-looking piece of fluff, but it's a well-executed, good-looking piece of fluff that has huge, melodramatic ambitions. And incidentally, I have nothing against melodrama. That's perfectly fine. It does have a couple of great performances. I think it'd be nice to see, Ziyi Zhang is already up for a Golden Globe, and it'd be nice to see her up for some other awards as well. Michelle Yeoh's terrific, but I defy anyone to tell me about a film in which she's not terrific, even when the films aren't that great. And Rob Marshall, having gone from being somebody who liked the cut every 10 seconds. Remember in Chicago, the worst thing was you couldn't see where they were dancing because it was cut so heavily. There was none of that artistry that you get, for example, in a Fred Astaire movie in which it's a single shot and the guy's doing it. Or Gene Kelly. I mean, Gene Kelly would always choreograph those things so that you could see the dancer was actually doing the dance. Well, in Chicago, it's like 1 foot down, cut, 1 foot down, cut. Well, you can make anyone a good dancer. This time he's taken his time, he's stepped back, nicely paced, slightly overlong perhaps, but perfectly all right. Nothing to write home about, but but perfectly all right.
Tsai Chin, who plays the auntie, who plays the failed geisha, she was in for a couple of weeks ago. And at the end of the conversation, I still didn't quite understand, maybe the film explains, why wealthy people would spend the equivalent of hundreds of pounds to spend an evening with a geisha.
Well,
enjoying witty jokes and badinage.
The movie goes at some length to attempt to explain geisha culture to a Western audience, as indeed does the novel. And what it comes down to, and the central thing is that, and the movie makes this very clear, it is not on an equivalency with prostitution, because actually there's a moment in the movie when the Americans arrive and that's when everything starts to go hideously wrong. It is a completely different... Now, obviously, to me, it's an alien concept, but it's an alien concept which is being put forward basically by a Western filmmaker from an author who lives in Boston. So it's very... I don't think, for example, that if you knew anything actually about geisha culture... I mean, for example, if you ask Tony Raines, who is clearly the country's leading expert on Asian movies, whether or not the version of geisha culture that is put forward in Memoirs of a Geisha is authentic, he would probably fall off his chair laughing. What you're getting is a Hollywood version of it.
If they had used Japanese actors, and they were able to film it in Japan, would that have made it better, do you think?
Well, I mean, it would have been a totally different movie. It's a Hollywood production. It's not even to do with the cast. It's just to do with the fact that it is at heart a Steven Spielberg Hollywood production, and that's what it is. And I don't see why people have a problem with that. That is what it is. If you want a Japanese movie, go see Zatoichi. If you want a Chinese movie, go and see a Zhang Yimou film. I mean, this is not. It's a Hollywood movie.